Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Matrix Moments podcast. I'm excited for you all to meet Manisha, who's a second-time SaaS founder and is now building a company called SiftHub. In this episode, we'll talk to Manisha about her motivations about starting up again, how she discovered that this is the right answer for her, and the challenges of building in competitive categories like sales tech. Hi Manisha, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Hello, nice to be here.
Before we jump into all the stuff, I'm going to ask you one question more left field on the personal front. When was the first time you made money? What did you do?
Well, I come from a business family. So my dad is a businessman. And I used to help him when I was in my 11th, 12th standard. But he never paid me. I mean, he used to give me pocket money. I'm not sure if that is considered as making money. But the real money I made was in my first year of engineering when I was doing some sponsorships for the events in the college. And there was a little bit of cut which was given to us as well.
And you obviously had a successful journey with LogiNext. When we met for the first time, sometime early mid 2022, you were enjoying life on the beach. Soul searching, traveling, enjoying life in general. So you had obviously stepped out from the previous company, but where did you spend your time? What was that discovery journey like? And at the conclusion of it, there's one more startup. So how did you make that call?
So that's a very interesting question. We can talk about it for hours and hours, but I'll try to keep it short here. I got around 18 months before I started SiftHub. And I traveled around 6 countries, a lot of cities in India as well. Started with Kashmir, then went to Dubai, and then Italy, Vietnam, US, of course. So traveled a lot. And one interesting thing I did was, which is something I realized in hindsight, is wherever I was going, I was actually attending events and meeting new people. So it was not just a holiday sitting on a beach. Coincidentally, the activities were planned in a way where I was meeting new people and maybe attending events, right? And that's where we met, right? I mean, we met at Sastra as well in US and brainstorming started. That's how the brainstorming started. Actually, in just third month of my break, I started getting a lot of ideas. I was like, oh, as a founder, I think whenever you see a problem, you feel like you want to fix this problem. So explored a lot of ideas and met a lot of new people.
I always say starting a company is like taking on a decade of pain. So why do you think, or how did you figure out that that is the right fit answer for you?
That was not easy actually, because once I, started traveling, I actually considered a lot of options, like right from, probably joining a big company, being an advisor to SaaS companies, joining a VC as well. I mean, that was also one of the options. So I actually considered a lot of options and I just took the approach of elimination, process of elimination. So basically it was like, is this something, do I want to be an advisor? It is going to be, very shallow. And I like going deep into things. I have been a CTO for 8 years at LogiNext. So it's always about going deep into the things. And when I was looking at, okay, what will be the job responsibilities? What will I really do for next decade in this particular role? I was not convinced that I can do that for long. And I was very, very clear that whatever I want to do next, I have to give at least 8-10 years of my life, because I think experience is all about compounding. So I truly believe in that, not just wealth, but even experience, right? So it was more of a process of elimination. And then ultimately I was like, looks like starting another company is the only option which is left, where I will really feel passionate and I'll truly be happy every single day. Even though we know it's going to be a lot of hard work, a lot of slog, a lot of highs and lows, I was ready to take that roller coaster ride again.
I know you tried the advising, you did the angel investments, all of that, but you came back to starting a company, right? So just switching gears to SiftHub, and before we get to what the company is about, I wanted to ask you, first question about timing actually. When we met in November 2022, you said this. You said there's a late mover advantage to doing anything and everything in AI. Let the tech settle down and mature 2-3 years out. And once you know where that stands, you can sort of go and build applications on top. How did you think about timing or starting like a company using generative AI tech now? Why not wait 2-3 years?
I would say it was a serendipity moment, to be honest. So while I was advising other companies, I came across this problem of not being able to find any information because there are so many tools used in any company. Like on an average, a mid-size organization today uses around 100 tools across all their functions, right? And when I was advising this company, I was like, okay, I have to start thinking of use cases of blockchain, let's say. Where do I really find information? And even from customer information point of view, there were multiple CRMs, some information lies in Drive, some in pitch deck. So I was like, there has to be a unified search across all the SaaS tools, across all the knowledge which is spread in the company. And I used to call it unified search. I didn't know the category is called enterprise search. When I started doing my research, I was like, yeah, technologically it is possible. I came across enterprise search company called Glean, and there were a lot of other companies which started, even 10, 15 years back who were trying to solve this problem. I started speaking to a lot of founders and users and leaders of, well-established organizations like VPs, SVPs, and so on to see if this really is a problem. Everyone thought it is a problem. It takes them time to look for information. The biggest question was, will they pay for this? And this was in August 2022 when ChatGPT was not launched. So, I was just going back and forth. Do I want to build a tool where basically, the productivity increment is 15-20%, and there are very less chances of people, maybe, companies paying for this tool just to gain 15-20% productivity. I was exploring a lot of other ideas as well. So my research was on with all the ideas together. Then in November, ChatGPT happened. And by January, it totally blew up, right? And then in Feb, I was like, yes, people will pay for it. I mean, it is because the productivity improvement is not just 15-20% now, but it is 70-80% because of the generative nature of AI that we have today. So that's how the journey was till February. And then after Feb, I was like, okay, this knowledge discovery and content generation is really important, but how do we make users adopt to this? Then the other journey of talking to almost 250 people started, where we landed with the idea of SiftHub.
And I know when we met the first time, obviously the ideas were around enterprise search. I think I was always against the idea, right? And I might have said it as much. And I never thought it could be done, but maybe Glean is showing us the way and at least has disproven what I thought about it. The way I always thought about it was solve 80-90% of one person's problem versus 15% of everyone's problem, right? So, and I know our ideas have changed over time, right? So what shape has SiftHub taken today, and how did you sort of navigate in that direction?
Once I started talking to people, it used to take me almost, let's say, a couple of minutes to explain the idea, to ask if this is even a problem for you. 120 seconds, right? Let's keep that number in mind. I was speaking to people from multiple departments, not just tech or not just product, from sales, pre-sales, founders, leaders, customer success, pretty much all the departments. One thing which especially, I knew a lot of people who were using these enterprise search tools. And one feedback I got again and again was the adoption is very difficult because you are giving, let's say, a search bar to the entire organization and you are like, okay, do whatever you want. It's like giving, AWS cloud to a developer and saying, build whatever you want to build. But that's not how it works. So I was very clear that, and even after brainstorming with you a lot, was very clear that I want to solve a niche in this space, but where the impact is very high. Either be it on top line, bottom line, productivity, the impact has to be really very high. So spoke to a lot of people. It was one thing which again and again sales teams used to say is, today we are spending 70% of our time in non-selling activities. Only 30% of the time in selling activities, which is actually their core, right? I mean, salespeople have been known for relationship building, and they were really frustrated of using so many tools and just spending 30% of their time on the thing that they really love. And in my past experiences selling to mid-market and enterprises, it was very clear that in the entire sales journey, in the entire life cycle of a deal, there are a lot of stages where customers keep on asking a lot of questions. It could be technical questions, legal questions, questions related to how to do the product setup, questions related to information security. And then there are these, large RFPs which companies send, InfoSec questionnaires which are sent by prospects. The way salespeople currently respond to these questionnaires is by giving them to pre-sales team. Now, the ratio of pre-sales to sales today is around, like, behind 5 sales manager, usually there are just 1 or 2 pre-sales managers or solutions engineers. So pre-sales and solutions engineer is a very overburdened team, because you want to keep on increasing your deal pipeline because you want to close more revenue. All this goes through these pre-sales and solutions team. So when we decided that, overall generative AI can actually bring in a lot of productivity, but where is the impact maximum? These are the teams we realize that are really involved in a lot of non-core activities, and they need to get their time back to do the activities which they really love and which matters to their role.
Some people might say that sales enablement is crowded, right? And is there even like room for one more company? What's your take on that?
I've heard this a lot.
I'm sure you get this a lot.
Yeah, I've heard this a lot. Well, sales enablement is crowded. That's why we exist. Any company uses around 100 plus tools on an average, SaaS applications on an average. So data is spread across multiple tools. Not all these tools are talking to each other. So in the last decade, I think we as SaaS founders have created this problem globally that there is a SaaS company for every single problem, for every single use case. So that is the reason why SiftHub exists. Because on a daily basis, sales teams uses around 10 to 12 applications, at least. This is like at a minimum. Now, when they have knowledge spread across so many tools, so many be it sales enablement tools, CRMs, Google Drives, their Dropbox storage management systems, they don't really know what is kept where. Some of the things are kept in emails. Some decks never make it to sales enablement tools. Some decks never even make it to Google Drive, right? So salespeople really have to think a lot, have to context switch a lot to find that right information at the right time. And let's say if you're trying to look for a deck, you don't find it in Drive, you go to your inbox, I'm sure you get distracted by other mails which come in your inbox rather than actually looking for the deck and doing the work which you were actually supposed to do. So there's a lot of context switching. You don't know where is the updated knowledge kept. You have to rely on pinging people on Slack, what is the answer to this, or going through 10 tabs and trying to find the answers. So that's where SiftHub comes into picture. Because there are so many sales enablement applications, we want to be the one-stop shop, a trusted knowledge center, which can enable sales and pre-sales team to discover any knowledge and generate content by repurposing the existing knowledge in the system.
One more sort of hot topic or common question, but people like to say that all applications are wrappers on ChatGPT. What do you think about that?
Well, let me give you 2 answers here, one technical answer and one high-level answer. So to start with the high-level answer, right? So there are 3 layers when it comes to Gen AI applications or when it comes to AI companies. The layer 1 is all the foundational model companies. Well, there's layer 0, which is basically your chips. Layer 1 is the foundational model companies, all the LLMs, and we know it is a very capital intensive business. There are going to be probably 5, 6 or 4 to 6 companies who will really win in this space. Then there is layer 2 companies, which is basically mostly dev tools. they have a little bit of risk, I feel, because all cloud companies and the foundational models, LLM companies, will obviously invest in that. So there might be more consolidation in that layer. And then there's layer 3, which is application layer, which is solving use cases either horizontally or vertically using GenAI. Now, this is where these foundational model companies are never going to get, because every workflow, every use case for every department, every industry, just look at all the permutations and combinations. It is very, at least for the next, I think, a couple of years, it is really difficult for any foundational model companies to focus on that, because there is so much happening on the FM side itself. I mean, I'm sure their focus is to get to AGI and not really build horizontal use cases or team-wise use cases, and deep workflow automation, deep workflow integrations. So even for SiftHub, right? So we are integrating with a lot of knowledge apps in the company. Now that is something which is not going to be a focus for foundation model companies. Even let's say, even if they do integrations. Now coming to my technical answer, when you're using GenAI, it is not really just doing prompt engineering and getting to an answer. You can get to an answer, but how do you make sure there are no hallucinations? How do you make sure that teams are not using 50% of their time in editing those answers? So in that case, you have to really do the entire end-to-end workflow automation. You have to really have RAG, LLMs, not just LLMs, right? Even the right embedding models, cross encoders in place to make sure the final answer which you are showing to the user, they should be able to use as is, and not try to, convert a paragraph into a bulleted point, because that takes a lot of time. What we are aiming at is, instead of using, let's say, a chat GPT wrapper where they can probably the productivity can improve by 20-30%, we are aiming to improve the productivity by 80-90%. And that cannot just, technologically, it is not possible to do that just with a wrapper. I mean, just imagine if you have a wrapper, you can't keep on sending all the knowledge in the company, the apps which we spoke about, all the knowledge in a prompt every time. Even if you create a chat GPT agent and you're uploading the knowledge, the rate at which this information is created in the company is crazy. So you need to have that real-time integration. You need to be very context aware in terms of what you're doing. And you need to be, deeply integrated in their workflow, not have them use one more tool because they're already fed up of using too many tools. Just be where they are working. Be in their ecosystem rather than adding one more layer to their ecosystem.
So bring the AI to the workflow and not the other way around.
Exactly.
Right? I think just switching gears a little bit, right? Obviously, you are a second-time founder. This is your second innings. So what are two things that you want to say that, okay, this went really well at the last company, I'm going to repeat that. And on the flip side, what are two things you want to do different this time? There are probably hundreds.
There are 100.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of top two here. Two things I am continuing, right? One is quality over quantity when it comes to building product, building teams, having the right set of customers you want to work with so that you're not defocused is very important. Be it early days or later stages, it is very, very important to always choose quality over quantity. And one has to realize that this is not just true for product, right? Not just for engineering. It just flows in the entire company, right? Entire organization. That is one. And that's also to do with building lean teams. Like, I'm a big believer of building lean teams, not like, raise some money and then hire hundreds of engineers. I'm not a believer of that. Like, build high performing teams. That is what matters. Because it's very easy, once you start hiring, let's say, too many freshers or too many juniors, you need to have managers to manage them. Then you need manager of managers. So it's very easy for the team to get bloated. If you are very, very conscious in the beginning itself, then I think you can absolutely control it. That is one. Second is, I think every team member, especially I would say engineering and product team, which is not very close to their customer as per their roles and responsibilities, need to understand the customer pain. That is something very, very important. And because I was the CTO at LogiNext, this is something was ingrained really well in product and engineering teams. I'm doing the same thing here. In fact, we have been dog fooding our own product. So once we started working with our customers, we got a couple of InfoSec questionnaires. Obviously, it was the first time, so we had to fill it. The good thing was we already have all the policies and everything in place because we are ISO certified, VAPT, all of that is done. So initially we filled it. And then now anytime we get a questionnaire from a customer, every engineer is supposed to fill that as an exercise. Every new engineer has to fill that as an exercise so that, they understand what our user goes through when even 1 out of 100 things don't work. So I think dog fooding your own product and making sure this goes down till engineering is very, very important.
While we are on the aspect of team, right? How do you think about team and culture? And, I always say like when it comes to employees, there's this spectrum of missionary or mercenary. And usually early stage, you have missionaries. As you grow, it becomes more mercenary by nature. But how do you create a team of missionaries?
One thing which has really worked out for me at SiftHub is hiring ex-founders. Well, I say the founders are never ex-founders or ex-co-founders.
They're always founders.
They're always founders, right? Like having those founders in the team, they might not be really having a very, very special skill set, like might not be the best in a particular skill set. But having those generalists in the team, especially in the early days, it helps a lot. So, even being a solo founder, I never feel that I'm a solo founder because I have an army where, everyone has very, very high ownership and not just founders, right? Even the first set of people we have, the core team which we have currently, everybody is high on ownership. I mean, literally every day they surprise me with the kind of ownership that they show. I mean, right from releasing features to shuffling priorities, because in early stage, even though you can create a roadmap for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, you have to be very nimble. So, showing that attitude is really, really important. So ownership is definitely one. Second is over communication. And I do weekly or monthly, depending on where is the team in their journey, one-on-ones with everyone. It is just a 15-minute chat, but they get to, we get to talk. Like what is going well, what is not going well. If something is going well, let's double down on that. If something is not going well, let's fix it. Because you don't want to wait for a quarterly feedbacks or feed forwards to happen because it will be too late to fix anything. So over communication is definitely one. Like under communicating can actually ruin a lot of things, but over communication has never killed anyone. And the third one is again customer obsession, which we spoke about. You have to take conscious efforts to make sure that everyone is customer obsessed, and this is not just a buzzword in your handbook, employee handbook or culture. And we really take conscious efforts to make sure everyone is close to the customer.
I think with that, we'll end with a quick fire round. So I'll ask you a question. You can give me your reactions, right?
Reaction or answer?
Reaction.
Okay.
So no time to think, just react, right? What surprised you about this Gen AI wave?
The speed of evolution.
What worries you about the Gen AI wave?
The next GPT launch.
Okay. Sam Altman said, hopeless for teams from India to compete with OpenAI at the foundation model level. Agree or disagree? You got married recently, and congratulations once again.
Thank you.
For a founder, what's the secret to a happy marriage?
Set the expectations right before you get married and have a supportive husband. Ashish, he has been super supportive. In fact, to be honest, he's the one who gave me the courage of starting up again to some extent. Like first time it was my dad. When I had discussed with my dad, he was like, just start. What, like if it doesn't work, you can go back to US. I mean, you will definitely get a job. This time it was Ashish as well.
If you had to call up a younger Manisha the day before she started her first company, what would you say?
Why didn't you do it before, earlier?
Building a tech company and hiring tech talent in Bombay, easy or difficult?
Easy if you are not looking to hire hundreds of engineers.
So you're saying it's easy early, but at scale.
But in a SaaS company, you will not need hundreds of engineers till you reach, 50 million, 100 million of ARR. And then you can have multiple teams, multiple offices.
A lot of people online and Twitter artists say now it's possible to build a $1 billion company with 10 employees. Agree or disagree?
Disagree. You can do it in less, but not 10 employees.
Awesome. So with that, we'll break. But thank you so much. It was a pleasure to host you. And all of you give me a reason to keep coming back to Bombay. So look forward to more trips and building an amazing partnership.
Great. It was a great conversation, as always, right from almost 2 years back when we met. Thank you for helping me in finalizing the idea as well for SiftHub.
Thank you.